so much for being here this afternoon. I'm going to call back to order and reconvene our Seminole County Board of County Commissioners meeting. This is our afternoon public hearing items, our public hearing agenda. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
Motion to accept proofs of publication. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'm going to read this afternoon our rules for the public hearing, which I know some of you are here and going to be participating in, so listen closely because this is how we're going to operate this afternoon. Our staff is going to present each item for consideration with a recommendation, and then the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when presentations have finished. The applicant will have an opportunity to make a presentation, and the board will then have a chance to ask questions once the presenter has finished. Members of the public who are interested in speaking either for or against a particular item can fill out a yellow speaker form located in the lobby, indicating the item number, whether you support or oppose the item, and provide the form to Ms. Beach down at the front desk. Members of the public will only be allowed to give comment once per item. If you just want to have your comments submitted for the record, you don't necessarily want to speak, but you want us to see what you have to say, you can fill out the green form that's out in the lobby. Speakers should be sure to state their name and address clearly for the record, and whether you are for or against the item. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak unless you're the official spokesperson for an HOA or a legally organized group. Then you'll be given 6 minutes, and that is assuming that you are going to be the only speaker for that group, so keep that in mind. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity will be given once the speaker's time has expired. In accordance with the operating policies and procedures of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, Section 2.175, Public Participation Before the Board, speakers shall limit their comments to the subject being considered by the board. All public comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers. The chairman may curtail repetitious comments. The clerk's office is required to retain any documents or photographs or drawings that you show the board, so make sure if you show it to us, you're prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all of the speakers have been heard, the applicant will then have an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. Then we'll close the public hearing and put the matter in the hands of the board for a decision. Following a motion and a second, the board will have a discussion and a vote, and commissioners who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Both of our items this afternoon are quasi-judicial items, and so we want to be sure that you understand that while the board welcomes comments from everyone with an interest in the proceeding, Florida law requires that the board's decision in a quasi-judicial action be supported by competent, substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing on the application. Competent, substantial evidence is such evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by county staff, that the applicant presented, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support their testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must ensure that a copy of such materials is provided to the clerk for inclusion in the board's record of proceeding and official minutes. Have any commissioners received any ex parte written communications regarding quasi-judicial items?
I have not.
Okay.
Mine has been submitted electronically.
I have not.
Commissioner Zimmerready?
I have not.
I have not received any either. So thank you very much. With that, our first item this afternoon is item number 28, the West Orange rezone.
Hi, good afternoon. Annie Silloway, Senior Planner with Development Services. I will be presenting the West Orange rezone. This request is for a rezone from A1 agriculture to R1A single-family dwelling for one lot, single-family residential lot on approximately 0.3 acres located on the north side of West Orange Street, approximately 130 feet west of Laura Avenue. Lot 21 was formerly joined with lots 22, 23, and 24. In 2006, the property was subdivided by way of warranty deed without seeking county approval to create a new parcel consisting of Lot 21 and a portion of Lot 22. The remainder of Lot 22 was combined with Lots 23 and 24. The creation of these two parcels created two non-conforming parcels. In order to legalize the parcel, the applicant will first have to rezone the property, and the second step is for the applicant to apply for a preliminary subdivision plan, a PSP, and a final plat. The subject property is currently zoned A1 with a lot size of 11,158 square feet and a lot width of 80 feet, which does not meet the lot size or lot width for the current A1 zoning designation or the surrounding parcels zoned R1AA, which require a minimum lot size of 11,700 square feet and a minimum lot width of 90 feet. The subject property is within San Lando Springs Plat Tract 53, the San Lando Springs Plat Tract 68, which is 1,200 feet from the subject property, is zoned R1A. Staff has determined that since the subject site is a part of the overall subdivision called San Lando Springs, which consists of properties within the R1AA and R1A zoning classifications, the request to rezone the property to R1A is consistent with the surrounding area. Utilities for the site are Seminole County Water, and the closest sanitary sewer through Seminole County is a half a mile north of the subject site. For sanitary sewer through the city of Altamont, the closest sanitary sewer main is approximately 400 feet from Laura Avenue to the proposed site, which connection would not be required and would be quite cost prohibitive for the owner. If the property owner was required to extend the the subject site is within the Wekiva Priority Focus Area per the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Agency, which is FDEP. Since the subject site is within the Wekiva Priority Focus Area, the applicant will be required to install an advanced septic system. There was a community meeting held on January 19th, 2023, and there were no attendees for the meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on April 5th, 2023, and voted unanimously to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture to R1A single-family dwelling for 0.3 acres located on the north side of West Orange Street, approximately 130 feet west of Laura Avenue. So staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture to R1A single-family dwelling for 0.3 acres located on the north side of West Orange Street, approximately 130 feet west of Laura Avenue, and that concludes my presentation.
All right. Are there any questions for, listen, we've never had anyone done that. That's incredible. Thank you.
Annie, you have a fan base.
Awesome.
That is phenomenal. We're going to take us,
I think they were cheering you because staff endorsed it.
yes, that's what it was, for sure. Any questions for Ms. Silloway?
No.
No, is the applicant here? Would they like to make a presentation?
They are here.
If you'd like to come down and...
No, I would not.
Oh, okay.
You
All
might
right,
get an
so-
applause.
For the record, the applicant is here, and he supports staff's recommendation, but does not wish to speak. Commissioner Constantine, this is in your district. Do you have any questions?
You got
I didn't, he looked like he was looking like he wanted to ask something.
not yet.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
We have one speaker for him. It is Mark Pennington.
Okay, Mr. Pennington?
Yeah, I live at 400 West Orange Street. which
If you
is
would,
across-
yeah, state your name, please,
My name is
for the
Mark
record.
Pennington.
Yep.
Sorry. I live at 400 West Orange Street, which is across the street from the property. And I didn't know about the other meeting. I'd come to the one on the 5th, but the one they said nobody showed up to, we never received notice of that. We all pay property tax on 2 lots. It's a residential neighborhood. And I don't know what it's going to do, building a smaller house, smaller piece of property. And there's also an issue with when they're talking about the septic tanks, there's people on wells just right, a septic tank would mess up the guy's well that it's adjoining. So I don't know what to do about that, but And the thing that got me most of all is it said it could be a foster home, it could be a group home, and it's in a residential neighborhood. So that's one of my concerns. I guess that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Is that the only speaker for this item? All right, thank you. Does the applicant want to address the concerns?
Jimmy Rampersad, 131 Cotton Court, Sanford, Florida, 32771. I can assure you it's not going to be a foster home or a group home. It's going to be a single-family residential home. In regards to the septic system, the property has enough size that it allows all the setback and everything, the drain field, enough for a septic system for that size. Also, as was recommended, is going to be the enhanced septic, which is much better than the current septic that all the surrounding houses have. So I don't think it would bring any problems in regards to the area. The house size is going to be 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. It sits the same size as lots of surrounding houses. It's not going to be anything that takes away from the neighborhood. I think it's just going to add to the neighborhood. It's going to be a new house. It's going to be well presented. I mean, that's all I have to say.
My only 2 cents on that would be I wish we had more people willing to foster children in this community. Any other questions or comments for the applicant? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Constantine.
Yeah. Have we closed public hearing?
Oh, thank you. If there's no one else to speak before the board, we'll close public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we had before I did this. Mr. Pennington, you brought up the fact of the septic tanks, and certainly I think all of us on this dais and would love to see that whole community be on sanitary sewer. That was the first question I asked, because this is right between Douglas and Montgomery. Altamont Springs has sanitary sewer and it has capacity. Unfortunately, we're talking about one property that is 400 feet away. And although I know that eventually we're going to have to go back and retrofit all of that and put in sanitary sewer, especially in the fact that this is in the Wekiva River Basin, the good news is that this property has to have the enhanced septic tank system. I would suggest that those septic tanks right now in the rest of the area are probably 30 years or more of age, and therefore they're reaching their limit of lifespan. So I think there's going to be a lot of retrofitting in the near future. But at this point, we are talking about zoning, and we're talking about the fact that because it's 400 feet away, it's but that the cost in the current language is prohibitive, but he will, because of the size of the property, have to have an enhanced septic tank. So I think that that's the best we can do at this time. I don't think it's the best we should do in the future, but it's the best we can do at this time. So I will move that we adopt an ordinance enacting the rezone of A1 agriculture to R1A single-family dwelling for 0.3 acres located on the north side of West Orange Street and approximately 130 feet west of Laura Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Constantine, second by Commissioner Zembauer. Any other discussion?
I think it would be important on the sanitary issue to understand for the party that is here, and thank you for coming down today and sharing your thoughts, is some of the concern, not only the cost of extending that sewer line, but it would force those residents that aren't connected to sewer to incur the cost to automatically connect through that region. So it would be very expensive not only for this lot owner, but also all those that surround it getting there. So I would support this as well.
Any other discussion? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Silloway. Our next item is item number 29. Project manager is Kathy Hamill.
Good afternoon, Kathy Hamill, Development Services. This item is a request from City Church, and they are requesting to amend a special exception that was approved by the Board of Adjustment in 2017. Our code states that any increase of buildings or uses that exceed 10% of the square footage requires an amendment to the special exception. The applicant at this time is not increasing any number of students as part of this amendment. What they are doing is they are including a new worship center, which is shared by the school, repurposing the old worship center into an indoor gymnasium, and a multi-use cafeteria, and including a new outdoor recreational field. The applicant is also redesigning the traffic flow by closing off one of their access points and expanding the southern access point. The current use and proposed use of the amendment is consistent with the development in the area along Orange Boulevard, which includes schools, daycares, churches, neighborhood commercial uses. There will be minimum impacts to the surrounding area since there are no increase in the number of students, and there will be improvements made to the traffic flow, and that the expansion will occur on the south side of the property, which abuts the Seminole County Water Treatment Facility and a communication tower. On February 16th, the applicant had a community meeting in which there were 10 citizens who came. On April 5th. The Planning and Zoning Board heard the request and recommended approval, and we are recommending approval of the amendment subject to the conditions in the staff report and the development order. This concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Hamill?
Not at this time.
What happened?
I know.
The students are just happy that they're out of school today, and the more Randy talks, the better they'll be.
The applicant is here. Would you like to make a presentation?
All right, that was funny. That's the first time staff's ever been applauded at a public hearing, ever. My name is Randall Morris, 323 West Trotters Drive, Maitland, Florida. I just want to tell you, David, will you come on up? Because we need to do our dog and pony. David Evans is Evans Engineering, and just a personal note first for you all, is David and I were on the team that you never saw that brought the 2 golf courses to you a year ago, and we thank you so much for your vision and how successful that's been, and what a win-win for everybody. But we're part of that team. And we did not show up at the public hearings. We figured we'd screw it up, Mr. Constantine. That's why we didn't. But on this particular case, City Church, I want to go through a couple things with you. One is this project was approved in 2017 by the Board of Adjustments. You subsequently changed your policies. Now it goes to the P&Z and to the BCC for any change such as we're asking for. The approval we have that we're operating under has a couple of minor changes. Well, we consider them minor. You may consider them more significant. But your code certainly considers them for your consideration. It's important to say what we're not asking for. We're not asking for an increase in student population. The population was capped at 500. We're not asking for a change in the student population. What we're asking for is a couple of site plan changes, and in addition to the site plan, you already heard staff mention about the access on Orange Avenue. Originally, it's had 3 access points. We will shorten it to 2. We'll put in a turn lane. And we also are adding we're slightly moving the church to a few feet in a different direction. We're adding the problem is the school is pre-K through 12. Ultimately, that's what it will be. And we're trying to find some separation among the students, both outside in the recreational area. We're currently, if you could show them the recreational area. Wait a minute, we don't have a pointer, I'm sorry. And that's up. But if you look at
Actually, Mr. Morris, Mr. Morris, if you could ask Mr. Evans to actually point, is there any, no, it's not on the short throw.
They've got a different screen.
Okay.
This is your PowerPoint. Occupying it.
Understand, thank you.
Children, this is where you're supposed to be prepared. So anyway, it's now a smaller corner in the left side top of the map you're looking at, site plan you're looking at, and we're going to a larger corner to the bottom. There's something intelligent's happening. Here we go.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
And he's going to walk through this. We're also adding, what's additional, we're adding a maintenance shed to the facility, which it currently doesn't have. We'll be able to, we're adding, in the church sanctuary building, we're adding classrooms so we can have, again, separation on the campus by ages. But we're not changing the time. We have a staggered time of delivery. That's staying the same, and pickup.
A little darker.
We're on Wilson Avenue. It's important to note that we did a community meeting that 10 people showed up. We wrote a narrative on that. That's in your packet. We tried to answer the questions. The big question that we had that seemed to come up and may come up again today, we don't know who's going to be here from the neighborhood, but the big question was there's different kinds of fencing in the area. There's a brick wall in one section, and then there's people have their own fencing, and then we have some of our fencing. And that is on the north side, on the east side, and on part of the south side. Most of the south side is your walled construction of your water facility, Markham Water Facility Plant, with the barbed wire over the top of it. Then we have, and notice I emphasize barbed wire because that's not very aesthetic to anybody, but a proper aesthetic. But we're willing to work with any of the neighbors, and we volunteered this when we go through final engineering and site plan to work with any of the neighbors on reconstruction of fences where necessary. And then also, as I said, we have brick walls in another portion, so it varies depending on that. So we just need a little leeway with that to work with them, and that's what we agreed to at the P&Z, and that's what we agreed also at the community meeting that we held. With that, those are really the simple changes. You can read the DO and see how the DO has been modified. The important thing on the athletic field on the outside, I know there's some interest by some of the commissioners on this. It's a soccer size field, but it'll be a multi-purpose field. It's kind of unique in the sense, it's not unique, but it's very rare. You see this actually put in a retention pond. That's how good the soils are there. We know that at certain times of certain events will cause it not to be able to be used. We know that most of the time it will be able to use. How do we know that? Because we're using the north retention pond right now for the same purposes, although it's much smaller. And we'll have no outside sound. And the biggest advantage to the neighbors, I think that the ones that I spoke to saw or heard, was currently the church facility is in a metal frame building, of which, as you know, a lot of the modern church services have music, and there's singing, and there's guitars, and there's drums, and there's bass sounds. That sound is not attenuated and goes directly into the neighbors' houses. The new church, the new facility, the new sanctuary, will be to the south, pointed a different direction, and be a tilt-con construction, concrete construction, which will massively attenuate sound. In addition to that, we're doing one other major improvement is we're doing, which later this year, I believe, if you all still go forward with it, you're going to have a light presentation on dark skies. We voluntarily are bringing dark skies to you on this project. We currently have some wall packs on the current property as it exists. We're going to get rid of those wall packs. We're going to go with shoebox lighting, and you can see the luminance that we're allowing. I think it's 0.5 lumens to bleed over into the neighborhood. This room right here is about 30 luminum, to give you an idea. So we're going to 0.5. 20 to 30, depending on what part of the room you're in. I actually studied that, so that was a major homework assignment for me. And so that, I don't know if there's any questions on the site plan. David, is there anything you want to go through relative to the ingress and egress, or what you've done there in terms of the...
Sure. David Evans, Evans Engineering, 719 Irma Avenue, Orlando, 32803. Yes, we worked with staff throughout the process to do the best we could on Orange Boulevard based on the current configuration, which did have 3 driveways, one on the north side, which was a single entry for the school, one on the south side, which was used for access to either exit from the school to the south, and then one in the center that's currently there, which is just a driveway, kind of a taper, that would be removed on the proposed plan in lieu of a full access on the left or the south portion of the property with a left turn lane in front. So, we worked with staff during this process to kind of go back and forth with a bunch of different scenarios, and we came up with this one based on the current site plan. And what that does is eliminate that center drive and center access and stacking, and gives them an actually dedicated left turn lane to come in, as they did not have in the previous version. So that's the access point that we've come up with.
No.
Thank you.
So if there's any questions on the site plan, if not, we can move on with our presentation. As we did explain to you, and we thank the chairman's indulgence, and we hope you all will indulge us in this too. This is a civics lesson. These students are pulled from school so they can participate in this process. Pastor Eugene is here with us. He's going to explain to you the mission of the school. After that, and I hate to say this, children, but we're actually asking not 6 of you or 8 of you to present, we're asking just 3 of you to present. We can sort of sort that out of what the most important part of the message is. And then lastly, the children produced a banner, which was going to be paraded down. We'll just kind of show it to you from the back, of which they've actually signed this with your handprints or by signature. And that, by the way, depends on ages. So it's kind of neat. So if we could, Pastor Eugene.
My name is Eugene Smith, and on behalf of City Church Academy, City Church family, we'd like to thank our commissioners today for your service to this community. My wife and I moved here with our 2 sons and 2 other families from Seattle to Central Florida 24 years ago with the mission. That was to bring God's love to our community, one person at a time. Over the years, we started in Altamont Springs in the old General Cinema Theater. It was a 500-seat theater, two theaters, each seated 500. And over the years, God has been favorable to us, and we have seen great increase in our local church community. And we've moved from Altamont Springs to Longwood to 650 Airport, which is in Sanford, to now our new location on Orange Boulevard in Sanford. Gone from a church of 10 people to a church that represents thousands of people in our community, and we're very thankful today for this opportunity to present to you the future plan that we believe that would best facilitate the mission and vision of not only our school, but also our local church. City Church Academy grew as an outreach of City Church Ministries in 2005. 2005, we purchased the old Page School at 650 East Airport Boulevard. And when we purchased that property, it was completely situated with 20 classrooms that had literally, Page Academy had left for whoever the next owners were to take over and to operate it as a school. We didn't have a plan at the beginning of our purchase to operate a school, but over the next couple of years, it seemed obvious to us that the need in the Pinecrest community was to provide an educational center for 2 to 4-year-olds as a preschool. 2007, we began the preschool, and over the years, we've continued to add grades to where now we're currently at our 5th grade. 2015, City Church moved to a new location over on Orange Boulevard, and we began plans immediately to expand our mission of our school. We sold that campus to another local church in our community, and we started the process of building a new building for our kids over at our Orange campus. In 2020, we were prepared to open the school, and as you know, COVID hit. And so we were not able to open our academy until 2021, in which time our current academy houses children from K2, which is 2-year-old to 5th grade, with approximately 80 to 90% of our students on an income-based scholarship. Scholarships come from the community, the state, and local church programs. Although our current worship center to be considered on our current worship center we're asking to be considered as a multi-purpose facility would allow us to turn that facility into a gym. The inclusion of a soccer field and multi-purpose gym would also give our children and community families an opportunity to practice and participate in sports on our property. Today, we humbly propose that this site plan would enable us to best fulfill the mission of City Church Academy and enable the next generation to make a positive impact in our community by raising champions and scholars who have a solid foundation for lifelong learning. We came up with a slogan for City Church Academy. City Church Academy's commitment is to raise champions and scholars for Christ by laying out a foundation for lifelong learning, which has been our mission from its very beginning. Today, I've asked Ms. Kayan to bring her 5th grade class, and she has several students that would like to read letters to you. And so we've narrowed that down to 3. They were all very excited to do that today. And so I'm going to have Ms. Kayan come with her 3 students at this time. And I believe the rest of the students have a little banner that they made for the commissioners today. And if you guys want to go ahead and bring that banner down now this time, that would be appropriate. Just bring it right across the front here.
Pastor,
this is Ms. Kayan and her 5th grade City Church Academy class.
Pastor, is that a banner that we can keep?
You guys are going to get to keep this. This is yours. Yes.
It's being presented to us. It has to be left with the clerk.
Just want to make sure.
about that here in one piece.
It's the adults that didn't listen to me when I said we'd just have it in the back of the room.
I'm going to have to use panoramic.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Ms. Kay, would you like to introduce your students to us? Maybe that would help.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is my 5th grade class, and this is Gracie Batten, Emily Ferrer, and Aria Dunbar.
Wonderful, thank you.
We, the people of City Church Academy, have some things to say that we love about this school. You can meet other people, and you can also grow your education in Christ and in love, and it can help you learn the Bible and how to use it, and you can get extra help after class.
That's great.
Going to City Church Academy was a miracle for me and my family. I enjoyed going to a new class and making new friends, and I found Jesus Christ in my life, so I know for next year I'm going to follow my dreams because I know I got this and that I'm ready for a new me and Jesus at City Church Academy.
I love City Church Academy because we've had so much fun since I started at the beginning of this year. I grew academically, I've made lots of new friends, and most of all, learned about Christ. I am able to dance and worship freely during chapel. Play in PE, I enjoy being in STEAM and participate in the Christmas program. I have had so much fun this year, and I would really love to continue to go for middle school and have many more amazing years at City Church Academy.
Thank you. If you guys could fold up that sign, and we're going to give it to this lady to my right. Can you just kind of, one of you, will you walk together? The two ends walk together. You'll figure it out.
Let's walk together.
And while they're doing that, if you all have any questions, we're happy to answer them. If not, we'd like to reserve time after public communication to correct the record or to answer any questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on with the next step of our process. So what I'm going to ask, yeah, let's go ahead and get that folded up because we can't really hear.
Let's give the kids a few minutes.
Yeah, we're going to take a minute and get that done.
I'm just going to call out that I found it humorous that Mr. Morris was instructing the children.
That was funny. That was funny.
I became a little unnerved by it.
They got it.
So anyone with sensory issues is having a conniption fit right now. I'm so sorry. It's like nails on a chalkboard for anyone who might have, like maybe me. I'm the one who hears everyone chewing in the room, and I'm like, I don't know where it's coming from. Thank you all so much. That really was very sweet. We don't get to have presentations like that before this board, really, ever. So it's quite a treat for us. So thank you for being here and being so involved and engaged in this process, and we appreciate it. The applicant has finished their presentations. Are there any questions for the applicant before we move to public comment?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Ms. Beach, do we have members of the public who would like to speak?
We have two. The first one is Dawn Goss.
All right. And who is after Ms. Goss?
Miranda Quigley.
Okay, Ms. Quigley, if I could have you just come down and stand right back here behind Ms. Goss so that you're ready to speak next. You'll have 3 minutes if you'll state your name and address for the record.
My name's Dawn Goss, 1057 Blackwood Street, Altamont Springs, Florida.
32701. In all honesty, I didn't know, I wasn't prepared to speak, but just when I walked in the door, I do support this move. I've lived in Seminole County my entire life. I live near another Christian school, Altamont Christian School. And I can't think of anything better to enhance a property where a school like that can flourish. I'm all for proper growth of things, and I loved hearing about the plan of taking into consideration the traffic. I don't think any Seminole County residents wants more traffic anywhere, but smart traffic for schools and our churches and those things that enhance the community. I've seen the benefit of what Altamont Christian School has done with the community and what it represents, and I hope that you guys will give this your full consideration.
Thank you very much. So would you like to just wave in support of what was just stated? All right. Thank you so much for being here. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak? No? And were there any cards submitted for the record in writing? No? Okay, great. Well, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Commissioner Constantine, you have a question?
Yes, I do. This scares me to ask Randy Morse to come back up to the stage, if you will, but Mr. Morse, you and I...
It is a stage with the applause.
The stage with the applause, that's what it is today. But when I was talking to you about this particular project, you told me about and you mentioned it again today, about the field, the multipurpose field, the soccer field, and how it is intended to be part of the drainage, and therefore you expect it to flood from time to time.
Yes, sir.
And as I finish with that, I just, we all understand that on Orange Avenue in that area, there has been concerns about flooding. We even had a little bit of conversation about it today. So I, respect that you're going to do that. My question has been, we've had other fields, one that I can imagine along I-4 that has been intended to flood in the past, and I've seen it many times flood, but at the same time, that was with the previous owners, the new owners, then all of a sudden, call us up and say, why is our field flooding? Is there anything in the, and maybe this should have been for staff, but I know you like to be up here. Is there going to be anything that will reflect the fact that for the future, that this is intended to flood, and that therefore, whatever happens to the property, they're going to know that it's supposed to be flooded, and it's not going to come back on future commissions that, why did you let this flood?
Yes, sir. I thank you for the heads up on this question, and I did give it great consideration, and we realized when it is flooding, we're prepared to do a water polo team. We think that would be a great use during that period of time. Jeez, you took that seriously.
No.
Oh, my God. Oh, no. Seriously. No, what we could do, that was humor, children, and didn't go over very
It
well.
wasn't good humor, but it was humor.
Actually, I thought it was pretty funny. The issue we could do, if staff would be willing to, we could add a simple line that we recognize from time to time the weather conditions may not permit this outdoor soccer facility or outdoor multi-purpose recreational field to be used for its purpose. We could put something like that in there. I don't think, Mr. County Attorney, making that change would be a more restrictive change so that it shouldn't require re-advertisement or anything?
That is correct. We could always add an additional condition.
Would that satisfy you, that we put some language in there?
Just as long as...
I'm looking for... You got it? Can you just... When you get it.
Just as long as future...
Yeah, so there's no, I agree with you, because there are those people that believe, who come back and complain to you, why'd you let us do this? This was so silly, we shouldn't have ever done. But generally, just so you know, the history they've had now, they've had about 7 years, 8 years of history with the property, 8 or 9 years of history with the property, has been that the front retention pond, be it smaller, has had about a 24-hour to 36-hour, depending on the heavy rain events, before it had percolated down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? This is Commissioner Hurst District.
It is,
Just a comment, if I may. Mr. Morris, if you look at the plans, it actually says drainage on the soccer fields, so it's actually clearly delineated that the soccer field is supposed to be used for drainage.
Okay.
That's what I saw.
Commissioner Herr.
So
Commissioner Herr has the floor.
Yeah, so here's the situation. I think the question was related to the plans refer to drainage, its disclosure to future owners, which is, I don't know that a condition in the DO is actually going to accommodate that. I think that's incumbent upon the future owner to understand the property they're buying. I would tell you that I appreciate the minimal impact traffic. I appreciate that there's attention being paid to the sound mitigation needs that are happening out there, because you and I have talked about that in the past. Dark skies was a bonus. We're just learning about that. You're a little ahead of the curve, a little further ahead than us. And the traffic control is going to be appreciated in that area. And the positive impact to the community is really, truly immeasurable. So with that, I would move to approve an amendment to a special exception for an expansion of a private school in the A1 zoning district on 12.07 acres located on the east side of Orange Boulevard, 480 feet south of Wilson Road. And that's all I'm saying.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Herr, second by Commissioner Zembauer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And since
Don't make us take it back, Randy.
No, I'm not. Actually, since we are dealing
I'm
with the
trying to
day of
figure out where I
indulgences,
lost control of this
it's a
meeting.
day of
I don't know
indulgences.
how this
Could I
happened.
ask you for one more indulgence, Madam Chairman? Could we have the school children,
You are gonna
all
wait for
stay
the
where you
answer,
are
were
and
you?
just stand in front of you? We can take a picture so
That-
they can see
yeah,
when they come
so-
back a year what happened?
Yes. Commissioner Zembauer had his hand up. I'd like to recognize him if I could, and then we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zembauer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out a couple things. One to Mr. Morris. It's barbed wire, not bobbed wire, just so we're clear. Now, you can come out to my district and I can show you all the barbed wire that's on. I'm not so sure I know what bobbed wire is, but anyway, just a point there. But I truly want to thank the church, the students. This has been a delight for me, and I think for all of us here, to see the young people getting out for a civics lesson and coming to our chambers, which, and such a joyous occasion. And I would say, based on what I've observed, Pastor, you and your staff are doing wonderful work and God's work on behalf of this community. So thank you very much.
Children, no adults, please. Just children, if you all could come up and stand in front, and it's like curved right in front of them. And who?
Oh, do not bow. No bowing. No bowing. I don't know what you're doing.
Cameras.
You want to throw candy?
One time you can use them. There you go. Oh, I should.
Spread it out.
We should get rid of the
Fifth grade
pineapples.
teacher's coming too.
Take the pineapples down.
Pineapples.
Pineapples. Everybody, on the count of three, we're going to say cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese! Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, they take care of the staff, the whole crowd.
So we're going to ask you all to just exit the chambers quietly, if you would, if you plan to leave. If you plan to stay, we're moving on to our next item on the agenda. We'll
Madam
give you a
Chair?
couple of minutes.
Would it be appropriate to ask the county manager to maybe display that banner in the halls of the county service building just as a representation
I'm
of
sure we'll
some
find-
artful?
I'm
I'll
sure
coordinate with
the-
the clerk's
he'll
office.
find a
appropriate
place for
place,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Great.
great idea.
Got that now.
Kyla was going to take it home and put it up at her. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the county manager's report, and I don't know, Mr. Gray, if you have anything additional on top of this morning or not?
Just one more item, and this was a project that was ongoing way before I got here, but it was the quiet zones at railroad crossings. And we got notification that the quiet zone is going to start, is set to start on May 9th next month. And so the trains will stop blowing their horns unless there's an emergency. I know that our Paul Chiplock with the county attorney's office, his staff has worked hard on this too. Our staff from Public Works, I'm just going to mention their names, make sure I get them. Samantha Ogle, Jadis Agree, if I said that right, Stephen Thomas, Sam Mosa, Sherry Harless, Ted Holmes, Matt Hassan, and Tony Nelson. They were all instrumental, along with the county attorney's office, to get this completed. So I know this was a big lift, so they got that ready to go and approved. And I don't know, Paul, you want to say anything else on it?
No, I think you covered that. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I just want to comment on that, if I may, Mr. Gray. I truly want to thank staff for their hard work on the quiet zone, but the quiet zone, by definition, the engineer of the train is allowed to blow the whistle if they feel it's necessary. So I just want to make sure the public is aware that they'll still hear the whistle.
Yeah.
They'll still hear the horn, but it won't be, hopefully, as often, because now they have the ability not to.
Gotcha.
Just want to be clear of that.
Thank you.
Very good clarification.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anything from the county attorney's office?
I just have one quick good news item. Just like to give a shout out to our senior assistant county attorney, Brajesh Patel, who worked very hard and diligently with the city, county, and local government law section in pursuit of a grant program for summer interns. So we'll be receiving $3,000 to offset the cost of summer intern for this year. So his diligence and extra effort are greatly appreciated.
That's fantastic. Moving to district commissioner reports. District 1 is first today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank staff and DOT for their hard work in the presentation that took place on April 13th. Myself and Commissioner Constantine was there at a press announcement, which was highlighted by the Lieutenant Governor on the additional road projects called Moving Florida Forward. And it will truly impact our entire region, not just Seminole County. The work is being done all around our county, but not inside Seminole. We'll have a lot of work that's being done on I-4, as well as I-95 and the entire state. This initiative by the governor and prioritizing the investments, about $7 billion. It will transform the state infrastructure. I think it'd be appropriate if we send a letter supporting this initiative as it was presented to all our state representatives and senators, not just the ones that represent Seminole County, but the entire state, because this is such a big movement that the governor is trying to get done, and I think that we should support it. And this initiative is what's going to take to move Florida forward, no pun intended. And I compliment the DOT as well as the governor on this bold initiative. And I really think that we should be sending a letter to all the state senators and state representatives. And I would like to have that under the chairman's signature, if that's possible.
Is that a motion?
That is my motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Delary, second by Commissioner Zembauer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then I also want to thank our staff. Some of them are not here. Obviously, the room is emptied out. They're busy doing their work, but Mr. Dredge is here. I know some of his folks are very hard working on the Lockwood Road project for the utility replacement. Kim Wimberg and her team is spearheading that. It's a coordination effort to replace that utility for not just utility people, but roads people, Sheriff's Department, law enforcement from the city of Oviedo, the fire department from Oviedo, as well as the schools, UCF, and they've done a phenomenal job and still going to do a phenomenal job. I've been out there last week. It's truly under construction, And even though they've gone down to one lane of traffic in each direction, the public, I've not heard that many complaints. The public is adapting to it. The website that our staff has put together to keep the people informed is very informative. People are using it. A lot of interaction between our staff and the community. I also was told that there is going to be a news report about it today, later, on WFTV, and I wanted to thank our staff for all their hard work in doing that. That's the end of my report.
District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you that were able to attend the Scout Dinner and fundraiser. We raised approximately $130,000, all said and done, so I sincerely appreciate you all that were able to make it. Kids House, of course, many of us were at the fundraiser for Kids House, one of the premier children's advocacy groups here in Seminole County. My wife bought quite a few things I don't necessarily know that we need or ever use, but anyway, so be it. I think I'm still holding things from 5 years ago that we've never used.
Looks like the Boy Scouts should have a silent auction.
That's right. Amen. Good idea. I also was asked to speak at the main event Equestrian Club this past week, inquiries about trail access and so forth for the equestrians. So we did a lot of talking about that, and they were very interested in understanding what trail connections are planned for the future to help move equestrians across not only this county, but the idea of moving them across the Central Florida region. So I spoke to that group, as well as many questions about how to maintain their trailers and their trucks and all that kind of stuff. So good event there for our equestrians. Also, good shout out to our Economic Development and our Tourist Development Council. I attended that meeting this past week. A lot of good news, as you all know, about things that will be coming before us for an indoor sports complex and those considerations. A lot of support there for that project during that meeting. Also want to, with a heavy heart, announce for some of you who don't know that Miss Imogene Yarborough passed yesterday. For those who know Miss Imogene, you know, she was a wife, a mother. She was a friend of many people in the community. She was an advocate for agriculture, and she was the matriarch of the Yarborough family. Her husband, Ed, was a county commissioner in this county from 1965 to 1973 in my district, which was a much different district back then than it is today. Interesting enough, she always advocated for 4-H and agriculture in the classroom. She also was the only individual to be rewarded the Fresh from Florida designation for her famous guava butter that she made. She truly will be missed in the community, and I will sincerely miss her during Christmas time. As you all know, typically she would bring in honey and some guava butter and, you know, some little cookies and so forth. So my last interaction with her, ironically, was during the Cattleman's Luncheon, and I walked up to Miss Imogene and greeted her, and as she always would in her proud voice said, "Commissioner, I can't see you, but I know who you are, I hear your voice." You know, the many things that she's done for the folks in Geneva and the Geneva community, anytime anybody needed something, they always went to the Yarboroughs for help. One of the last ranching families in our community, so she'll sincerely be missed, and her children, I know, are heartbroken right now, but Miss Imogene will be in a much better place. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
District 3.
Thank you very much. Did want to let you all know that last week, I attended a opioid solution leadership network from the National Association of Counties, in which one of the 26 national representatives, and interesting enough, the only one south of North Carolina. And but you know, in dealing, as you all know, we have we received $4 million this year from the opioid settlement, and are looking to have $4 more million for the next 17 years. And we're having our program, public-private partnership, spearheaded through the sheriff. So a lot of interesting and different, unique opportunities is the way that other counties throughout the nation have used it, some of which are just starting to receive money. We have, because we joined into the suit, we are a qualified county. We qualified as, is that what it's called, a qualified county, correct, Paul?
Yes, it is.
And so we get the money directly. I will just say that in most situations, we are ahead of the game in this scourge that is upon us, in trying to do treatment and finding ways to help those that are afflicted. But the fact of the matter is, there's still a lot more we can learn, and working with the sheriff on this, I'm very excited that there are new and innovative approaches that are coming forth, and so I just wanted to keep you all aware. We have 3 or 4 more meetings on that. It's an organization that's paid for by the as a grant by the Pew Institute. So I'll keep you informed as it moves along, and we're trying to come up with actually good ideas for national, but specifically be able to bring some good ideas back home. Also, on Saturday, the city of Altamont Spring to open up a new park in the East Altamont area, which is just an incredible program for the community. They also announced that they were going to name the 2 pavilions after Congressman Hastings, who, as we all know, passed away last year, but is from that area. And it's good to see, as obviously Commissioner Lockhart and others have really worked hard in promoting and helping to improve that area, that we see more and more positive things in the renaissance of the East Altamont area. Yesterday, I was at a retreat with, first a board meeting and then a retreat with CareerSource, and that was, as we talked about today with the economic development, it's amazing how things have changed, where even though we were in a much different situation 10 years ago, and they were training about 1,000 folks for jobs, we're now in a much better situation with only 2.4% unemployment. But at the same time, they have, in the last year, have trained nearly 10,000 to get jobs. So it's really, on both sides of the spectrum, it's improving a great deal. I did want to just point out that this Saturday and Sunday, we have 3 wonderful things going up. Castleberry's doing an Earth Fest. We have the Boys and Girls Club, the great gala on both on the 29th, on the 30th. The Seminole County South Rotary Club is doing a Rising Achievers, in which they give scholarships to various students. And that's, as I said, going to be on Sunday. And also, I think many of you have heard, and I just wanted to give you a report of, the legislature is still in session, so we're not safe yet. In fact, they've already passed some things that were very unsafe. But one thing that you all might have heard about, I think you did, and gotten phone calls about a 1064. 1064, they were kind of, and I had a conversation with Mr. Morse because he had heard about it also. There was a particular amendment floating around that would do potential harm to our rural boundary. It was on urban services area. Many thought it might have come from certain people in this region. It actually came from Hillsborough County, because there's some developers over there that are having problems with Hillsborough County, in Hillsborough County not wanting to expand their urban services area. I know that Mr. Applegate is involved with it, or was informed of it, and has helped the Florida Association of Counties in ensuring that we're ahead of the game. We, at the Florida Association of Counties, rejected that amendment as far as told them that we would not be in support of it. And the problem with the 1064 is it has become the Disney bill. So everybody knows that it's going to pass because the governor wants it. So every lobbyist is trying to get their little special interest on 1064, knowing that even if it's not the greatest idea, because it's part of a bigger bill, that it will pass. The good news is that at this point, it's still moving through the process, but no amendment language, as we have discussed, is on the bill at this time. And so it looks, there's a possibility, a very good possibility, that we're not going to have to deal with that very bad amendment. And I just wanted to say also that dealing with Ms. Yarborough over the last 30-plus years, I'm going to miss her, and you know, it's kind of appropriate that today that our county manager brought up the fact of how we're pursuing the possible purchase through Florida Forever, because I know that that was something that was very important to her. So with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Commissioner Herr.
I thought I had a long report, but I don't now. First of all, I wanted to congratulate Commissioner Zembauer on a really, really good event for the Boy Scouts. It was a pleasure to be supported there. I actually do have a few handouts, so if you would take one and pass it down. They're paper clipped separately, and I already sent them that way. Not in the handout package, but I did want to mention that it was brought up in the last CFX board meeting that the concept feasibility and mobility study for the CFX extension to the Sanford Airport is underway. It's expected to be complete by third quarter of this year. I know that the county manager has already met with CFX and that we'll be having presentations here at some point, but it is moving along. There is a letter in your packet that is in support of an FDOT grant application for the Sanford Trolley, and it is part of the Community Redevelopment Agency effort to work on public transit with regard to Sanford. I'd like the approval to have the chairman sign that letter in support.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
For your information, I have also included a couple of the goals for 2023 for Rescue Outreach Mission and how they're measuring it and how they're reporting against it. They are doing really great work in getting folks that are unhomed homed, and building out processes and procedures to make it sustainable. It is still a gigantic struggle in terms of fundraising, so I'm not going to sugarcoat that part of it. The operational part of it and the impact to the folks that are going through their facilities is pretty significant. I do have a Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee appointment, so I move to appoint Ms. Kayla Mitchell. She will be replacing Emily Hanna, who recently moved out of the county. The term will expire on 12/29 of '23.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Herr, second from Commissioner Zembauer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Bryant and I have been in ongoing conversations, and it is with his blessing that I make the following motion. So I want you to know that it is both with Bryant's blessing and it is with Paul's blessing, and Darren is aware of it, that I am recommending that we move Paul into the acting county attorney role, effective immediately. Bryant would assume the role of county attorney emeritus. Bryant's role would be to continue to work on the penny tax prep, charter review commission, rural boundary follow-up issues, affordable housing, help with the attorney search as needed, help with transition as needed, and restitution issues, just to name a few. It is not an exclusive list. But Paul is sitting in the role, functioning as the role, and to clarify that, I think, is warranted, and I am making a motion.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I will just say I think it's a wonderful suggestion. Both Mr. Applegate and Mr. Chipok have been incredible throughout this transition time and process, and I think, you know, I elbow him on the regular. You all may not see it, but he's certainly serving the purpose, and I think to give you that authority and that recognition is completely appropriate. And to still have Mr. Applegate be able to serve in all of those meaningful ways is going to be very important. So I think you done good.
Thank you.
And valuable.
Yes, very valuable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
So thank you both very much for indulging my thinking out loud with you. The next one is a little bit of a tougher topic, much tougher topic, and that is that I do know in District 5, in the Midway community, there is a significant amount of social media chatter with regard to sex offenders living near bus stops. And I just want to point out that while we are not talking about all that's being done about that publicly, that there are things that are being done, and in addition to the things that are already underway, including meetings that we've had with the Sheriff's Office and the staff that works on those issues, we are going to convene someone from the Sheriff's Office, someone from Seminole County Public Schools, and I am going to ask someone from the County Attorney's Office to join us just to determine whether or not we've uncovered turned over every rock in terms of what we do to make sure that the children in this community are safe. So just know that it's not going unnoticed, but we are not going to publicly talk about this much more. The last thing that I would point out is that I don't know if everyone's heard about this, but Oviedo Memorial Post 243 American Legion is running a heritage campaign and fundraising for a new building, and I have included in your packets the handout for that. And should you feel inspired to help them, I would certainly be excited to have that. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
I have a question for Commissioner Herr. Thank you very much, by the way, for the ROM update. I'd like your opinion. It struck me, we talked a little bit about this morning, had presentations from the Sharing Center. And I've been working with, the affordable housing folks for many years now. And we all have been working with those nonprofits. It seems to me that we have many organizations performing the same duties. Do you have any sense that would make sense to try to invite them to some kind of summit to have a discussion how they can complement each other, and if they're rolling and serving the same provisions to our community, it seems to me that it would be beneficial to everyone to collaborate through the cities and the county to find out who's doing the best, and maybe some take lead on or funding and so forth from a discussion standpoint. I'm not saying we do anything, but to bring all those entities together, we always have them here competing for grant monies from the county, as well as the cities. And you have ROM, you have others that are food pantries, which we have numerous throughout the community, Meals on Wheels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It would seem to me if we could get some collaboration, we may be able to be more efficient with our dollars, as well as help those, charities do the best work they possibly could without overlapping with each other or thinking they're competing with each other for grant monies. Just a thought. I'd like your thoughts on that.
So I'd be happy to give you my thoughts. First, I would start by saying that I do think that the nonprofits in our community collaborate rather effectively. I think it feels to us like they don't, but the overlap the overlap, if you can picture 100 circles all touching each other, there's spheres in there where they're overlapping, but they're not direct overlaps.
Right.
What the Sharing Center does today and what Rescue Outreach Mission does today are completely separate things. They do serve the same population at different points of need.
Sure.
So, and then the second piece of that I would offer is that I'm not convinced that we would be the right convener of those conversations. Possibly a leadership seminal that maybe can take an effort from a private sector perspective, because the private sector, I will tell you, puts more money into these charities than we do.
Sure.
The money that we put into these charities is overwhelmingly passed through from the federal government. The money that's put into the charities by the local business community is right out of their bottom line.
Sure.
And so I think that a better place to put that might be with a leadership seminal. Their visioning organization just got done doing some work, and quite honestly, where it landed was with not a huge task left, so there might be a good place there. But I do think there is a significant amount of collaboration that happens. Sometimes it's facilitated by government entities. The sheriff's office does a lot of work to make sure that everybody knows who's doing what. But I don't know that we're the right place for that.
No, understood. It seems to me, because I talked to some of these people, Hope Center and Oviedo and Second Harvest, and a lot of these people overlap in where people are getting services. So just a thought.
So I will say, over the years, there have been multiple convenings of the type that you're suggesting, and I think that there's always something good that comes out of them, because things do change and leadership changes and missions change a little bit. The last time that the county was the convener, I believe, and Allison can correct me, although I'm not sure she was here at the time, was when we were talking about creating our own continuum of care.
Right.
And all of those agencies were brought together, and there were a lot of good conversations that were had. Prior to that, it was a private sector from the ground up. Everyone came together. I want to say that was probably 6 or 8 years ago.
I think that was in 2015, 16.
I think there is a rationale for having those touch points along the way, just as a community, so we all know what each other is doing and where can we improve and how can we support each other. I would agree that we might not be the best convener, but certainly it's been done. It might be time to do another one if there's an organization that's interested in picking that up.
Well, and I would point out that Seminole Action Board, which I did serve on,
Right.
Was not necessarily brought together, my opinion, not necessarily brought together to convene the parties. It was brought together to figure out if we should pull out of the continuum. And quite frankly, I think it was brought together to pull us out of the continuum.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that.
Well-
And that would have further delineated the services. It would have made it even worse.
Right.
From my perspective. But out of that did come Worley Park, which created 82 units that provides some affordable housing in the community. So I quite frankly think that given all that we have to do under Darren's scope in the world that we live in right now might not be the time for us to do this. But I could certainly take it back to Leadership Seminole. I serve on that board.
Yeah, I think whether it's us or another entity, I think it's worth a conversation. So if you're happy to do
I'll
that,
do that.
I'm supportive of that.
And if I might, I would just say to Commissioner Hurd that when I served on that board 2 years ago, I suggested that very thing when we were going through some things, and it seemed to have a lot of nodding of the heads, but it never followed through. So that might be something that you might want to bring up again, as you said you would.
All right. right. For my district report, I'd like to appoint Tamara McRoy to the Contractor Examiners Board as a consumer, fulfilling a vacancy for the term that expires December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The canvassing board is a topic that this board has addressed on and off over the years in various forms and fashions, and I asked the county attorney's office to pull together the information for us so that we could all have the same bits of information about what the canvassing board is, what it isn't, who's qualified to serve, what would be a disqualification to serve. I believe this was forwarded to your offices. I think someone in the county attorney's office wrote a fabulous memo. I believe it was forwarded to your offices through Bryant from Gerlin, dated April 19th, 2023, the overview of the county's canvassing board and a variety of questions that are there with the respective answers. Obviously, we have some municipal elections that are coming up. We've had conversations with the supervisor of elections, their opinion of this being a 2-year cycle as opposed to 1 year at a time. We need to go ahead and see what direction this board wants to take as far as who we would like to have seated. If you are on the ballot, you are automatically disqualified. If you are publicly supporting a candidate on the ballot, you are automatically disqualified. I don't know what everyone's intentions are moving forward for whether you plan to be on the ballot or not, or support someone on the ballot moving forward, but those would be the primary factors. Is that right, Mr. Shipbach? Chime in.
Yes. It's controlled by Section 102.141 of the Florida statutes, and the canvassing board is made up of 3 members, the Chief Justice, the Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, and someone else who escapes me right now. But anyway, for the county, and the county chair is disqualified because of either, as the chairman said, being a candidate or actively supporting somebody. If that happens, then it is for the board to select among them the remaining members who would be the representative on the canvassing board. If everyone is disqualified, then it goes to the chief judge, and the chief judge makes that appointment. Now, there's no prohibition against you making a suggestion as a board as to who you would like to see on there, but there is no requirement that the chief judge has to follow that. So that kind of lays out the groundwork of where you may want to go with this discussion.
So the question for me as the chairman at this point is, do I want to do this, frankly? I could certainly look at this as another wonderful opportunity to serve the community, but it would take me out of the ability to help support anyone or be involved in anyone's campaigns moving forward. Some people might say that's a blessing, why don't you take that and run? But I also recognize that this board, I'm representing this board, and so I want there to be an opportunity that that we make sure that we're handling this transparently, that we're handling it according to state statute, and that everyone is comfortable with the outcome. I am happy to serve on the canvassing board. I am not running for re-election in the next 2 years. I don't foresee the need to be involved in anyone's race. Some of you may say, yes, please don't get involved in my race. That would be a blessing. But it is, I'm happy to do it. I am willing to do it, but I'm also willing to take advice and direction from my colleagues. Commissioner Zembauer.
So I have a perspective. First and foremost, if the chair wants to serve, I would support that. my personal beliefs are in the world of total discourse in politics these days. I would never serve because no good would come from it. You would bring, regardless of which side of the aisle, even our own side of the aisle, accusations and turmoil to this board that we certainly are not inviting to occur. But that could be fairly said about many things that happen. But that's my perspective. I would never serve in that capacity in this day and time. I think it's better left to neutral parties, as neutral as they possibly could be. That's my 2 cents worth.
That's a valid perspective. Commissioner Hart.
I will be running again, so I will not be eligible, so that makes it very easy for me. I actually do understand what you're saying, to say that you're not involved in any race. Even if you're not involved in any race, you still have a political leaning that's very well identified. All of us do. And so it is interesting, which is sort of the concept around, having a judge on there, because they're not allowed to have a political leaning. So I will certainly support your decision, but do wonder whether or not there's an option that may be better.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I want to thank the county attorney putting that together. I actually sent an email to the county attorney asking him to do that. I had a couple citizens come to my office asking questions, and I wanted to make sure that it was clearly delineated and fully transparent what the requirements are and what the process is. So thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing that up. I will also be running in 2024, and that way I would not be qualified to serve. And if you feel that there's a need for you to represent us and you're qualified, I would fully support that. And I would fully support your decision.
Well, Commissioner, are you running or not?
Is that what everybody, it's a personal choice. And I would not even begin to give you the suggestion. I know that it is hard, this particular thing, but, I also, it's a good experience. I've been on canvassing boards before, and it's, if you feel that you can, do the job and feel that it would be something that public service and, American politics, but it is what it is. Again, that's a personal choice. And, if anybody wants to know, yes, I'm running for re-election. So it is what it is, but that has nothing to, I would not run anyway, whether I could. I mean, I would not be on it whether I could or could not because of that. Even if you could run for it, it's not. In a situation that you're standing for, I have been on canvassing boards. I did enjoy the experience, but that was a different era.
Well, I genuinely appreciate the ability to have dialogue about it, because I genuinely appreciate the ability to have dialogue about it, because I believe that the outcome is that at some point we would have to vote to make a decision as a board. This is not something that I would unilaterally decide unless I decide I would do it. If I decide I don't do it, then the board has to make the decision of what to do next. Is that correct?
Let me rephrase to make sure I'm understanding. The way the statute reads is the position is yours unless you are unable to serve or disqualified.
So I don't get to pick?
It's yours, well...
Unless you're unable.
The way to be disqualified is to be supportive of another candidate or to actively campaign on someone's behalf.
Okay.
At which point it reverts back to the chief judge.
Well, it reverts back to this board, which, again, since 3 of you are running it, would only leave Commissioner Delary as an available person. And then,
Zimbauer.
That was Zimbauer, I'm sorry.
And he's already saying, I'm not doing it.
Right. So you would somehow become disqualified as well, I would imagine.
So I think you have the answer without convening later.
Well, yeah. Well, I just wanted to make sure that this had to be discussed publicly because it would be considered a sunshine violation if we were to talk about it privately, because it would potentially come back before this board for a vote. Is that correct, Mr. Applegate? I see you nodding.
That's correct. And if I may,
Yes.
I first started representing canvassing boards literally 33 years ago in Orange County. And I don't want to disagree with anyone up there, but during that time, we would have massive recounts. I can remember escorting 160,000 ballots down Orange Avenue to a facility large enough to have a hand count of those. And no one challenged it. It was the process worked. We are in different times, but maybe because we are in different times, now's the time to stand up and say, you know, this is the time.
What is the deadline for this decision to be made? When does this have to be determined?
That will depend on the supervisor of election when he wants to convene the first training of the canvassing board, so we would need to check with him.
Commissioner Dillard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question for Mr. Applegate, if I may. I know last year we discussed this in great detail, multiple times, in my office. The issue was that the supervisor of election had a 2-year appointment on individuals. Can you discuss that, please? Because that's been a question that's been presented to me several times.
You know, what you and I went through last year, it was a surprise to us that the supervisor of elections took the position that the canvassing board that I think then Chairman Constantine was involved in was going to serve a 2-year term. The statute is silent. In most jurisdictions, and I know in Orange County, we always treated it as every election cycle, a new canvassing board would be appointed. Sometimes it was the same board for a number of years. We had a judge who always looked forward to serving on it, that kind of thing. So we decided basically that this was not a battle we wanted to pursue. You know, it's an open question, and so we acquiesced to the 2-year term without going to court. We told individuals that if they wanted to challenge that, they would have the right to do that, but the challenge would be against the Supervisor of Elections Office, not this board.
Thank you.
Well, what I'll ask then, with the consensus of the board, is to find out what the deadline is to make this decision. I'll do a little bit of soul searching, and we'll come back if that's okay. The decision doesn't have to be made today.
That is correct.
All right.
So, but I just want to be clear of what's coming back. So
that I will let you know if I'm going to be involved in a campaign or not and be supportive, that would disqualify me.
Right.
And if it does, if that's the decision, then that means it comes back to this board for direction of what to do next.
I'm just reading this differently. So I'm reading item number 5 of Geralyn's memo, what happens when a particular member cannot serve on the canvassing board. Florida requires that the chair of the Board of the County Commissioners be one of the board members. But if the chair cannot serve or is disqualified, the chair of the BCC appoints as a substitute one of its members who is not a candidate with opposition in the election and not an active participant in the campaign. So we don't have one of those up here.
Right.
If it's not you, we don't have one.
Right.
If no one from the BCC can serve, the chief judge of the judicial circuit of the county can appoint a qualified individual, not acting as a candidate with opposition or as an active participant in someone else's campaign. The chair can make the request for the BCC or, at the chair's discretion, recommend a qualified individual for the chief judge. So if are you asking us to start bringing names here? Because I don't want to do that.
I don't know what I'm asking yet, because I don't know if I'm going to jump in with both feet. I really genuinely didn't come here with a predisposed idea. I wanted to hear what my colleagues' thoughts were, and then if I had the opportunity to ruminate, I wanted to marinate in it and come back.
Right, and if it's not you, then
I may make a request for the BCC to ask the chief judge to consider an appointment. Maybe it's not a judge that we want. I don't know.
Okay. So I'll weigh in on that thought.
But we don't need to weigh in on it now. I'm just saying, I wanted to get like the high-level view of, are you all opposed to me serving or not? And then I'm going to sleep on it, and then we'll come back and really, if we need to dive into it, we can dive into it. I don't feel the need to go through all of the labor pains if it's not necessary now.
Okay, I understand. I would like to resist the thought process of us starting to gather names of people that want to serve.
I understand.
I don't think we should be doing that.
Okay. Commissioner Zembauer.
I just want to be clear. The chairman made a statement that I need clarity from our legal counsel, which is unable to serve or involved in advocating for a candidate. That also includes if the chair decides simply she desires not to serve. There's nothing that says she has to advocate for a candidate in an election to be disqualified. She can disqualify herself by just simply saying, I don't want to serve. Is that not correct? Or are you saying she has to serve?
I'd be glad to have your support, though, just for the record.
I didn't read the statute to say she can decide herself she doesn't want to serve, unless you all tell me otherwise. Because what she's believing, I think, or what I heard Commissioner Lockhart say is she can't serve if she's endorsing a candidate for the election, or if she's disqualified for some other reason or unable to serve. I think when I read the statute raw, it means to me is if she decides she doesn't want to serve, she doesn't serve, unless y'all are going to say something different.
I think what the chairman's doing today is a very good move, and that is setting the table for the next discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think in fairness to the chairman, we need to give her time to make that thought process and decision as to whether or not she wants to serve or can serve. And then she can come back and say, I've made a decision one way or another, and here's the next step we need to take. And I can tell you that in other places, again, my memory, but Orange County, in years ago, it was the chairman of the board a lot of times. And if it wasn't the chairman, it was somebody that, back then it was she would recommend somebody that would get appointed by the judge. So I just think Chairman Lockhart has taken the right approach in light of everything that happened last year, that this is a good discussion to start. Give her time to think about what she wants to do or needs to do, and then come back with a decision for the board.
Thank you. All right. To be continued, but sorry. Last week, 2 weeks ago now, time is flying by, I was down for the count with bronchitis for a bit, and I appreciate all of you being patient with my just being completely out of pocket. But before I was down for the count, I was able to go to the Private Business Associates of Seminole Group and represent this board, did like a little mini state of the county, if you will, for that group. It was amazing to me how many folks are members of that organization who were not at the state of the county, so it was a completely different, for the most part, audience. A lot of city representatives were there as well. It was seemed to be well received, good reception, always a great group. Our office received, and we included in the submissions, a letter from Representative Sam Killebrew in response to our letter telling him that we had made the scrub jay, our Seminole County bird, and I thought it was very kind of him and his office to respond. I just want to read for the record. Dear Ms. Lockhart, thank you for your continued support for the scrub jay and House Bill 17 designation of the state bird. How amazing that you adopted a resolution establishing the Florida scrub jay as the official bird of Seminole County. It is very enlightening to see the passion and dedication the students of the Wildlife Conservation Club of Seminole High have for the environment. I appreciate your commitment to being an example and leading your community to take pride in Florida's wildlife. Respectfully, Sam Killebrew. And of course, that was just written to me as the chairman of the board, but that is certainly intended for all of you and our collective commitment. I want to give kudos. We were talking about Public Service Recognition Week, and sometimes our offices get calls that don't really have anything to do with anything we can say grace over, but it's our just moral obligation to try and help get people pointed in the right direction. And we had a call recently come into our office that needed to be handled at a federal level, and Patty was able to reach out to Congressman Corey Mills' office in Lake Mary, and this resident was having a Social Security issue. And talking through the concerns and talking about the resident who was homebound and really not able to get online, and obviously an elderly person. The person in Congressman Mills' office, Bradley, realized, looking at the address, that he actually lives in the same apartment complex as this elderly resident of ours. And he said, not a problem. He said, I'll go over there. I'll take all the paperwork to her. I'll have her sign it. I'll get it done. So huge shout out to Bradley and Congressman Mills' office for going the extra mile to serve the residents of Seminole County, that he would make a personal visit and do that. And so intergovernmental collaboration at its finest with some really good people. So many of you, if not all of you, know Rabbi Capro. He is being recognized as a part of the Association of Jewish Chaplains. He was in the U.S. Navy for 20 years as a chaplain and retired in 2010, but then retirement didn't work for him, and he went back and started working again. I would love for this board to give me the authority to write a letter congratulating him and commending him for his service.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Is there
Certainly.
a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The East Central Florida Regional Planning Council has a training coming up that was ironically enough scheduled. It's the G402 training for public officials for emergency functions. And the one that we had scheduled last year was scheduled on the day that Hurricane Ian hit, which was, the irony of that. So that was canceled. It's rescheduled for May 24th. I've emailed each of your offices. There's an RSVP link. If you cannot attend for some reason, I think it would be an awesome opportunity for your assistants to attend, to understand what our roles are in these events. Our roles as elected officials are unique. We don't sit at an ESF, and we can either be a huge help or we can be a royal PETA. So I think that I think this class will be a great way for us to make sure that we're doing things that will be helpful, and our aides could certainly benefit from knowing what it is we're supposed to be doing too. The other thing that I believe Melanie passed out is the county attorney search timeline. You should have that, the updated list. I'm bringing this up not because we have to vote on anything, but I just want to make sure that you all have this information, and if there's any input or please don't modify anything. If there's anything that we do want to change or anything we want to talk about, I think this would be a great time to do it before we get too much closer to the May 8th position closing date.
I can only speak the dates. In all fairness, I have 3 women that keep my dates, and none of them have said these won't work, and they all have been given this, so I'm not going to step on anybody's toes at this point. I'm good with it.
All right.
Nobody's told me otherwise.
I love that.
Are we two of the three?
We're not two of the three
okay, I
women.
was
No,
confused
there's
for a minute.
it's three.
Well, don't put 5 in there now.
All right, thank you.
So thank you so much, Melanie, for working on this with Ms. Narlock. I don't, if you have anything you want to add to this?
I just wanted to mention, as you saw at the bottom, the thought of having a panel of 3 attorneys to provide, to meet with each of the finalists and maybe provide input back to this board, you know, their thoughts on what they had. So I would need some suggested attorneys from each of you, one from each of you.
And just so this is not a public panel. This is a private.
It's a private interview panel that would meet with each of the attorneys.
We've not done before.
I don't need an attorney to sit in and review a possible candidate to be a county attorney.
So I think this was recommended.
By me.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to, and I'll let you explain why. But when it was first brought to me, I was a little like, same thought process. I'm not sure I get it. And they wouldn't be interviewing in the sense of passing a thumbs up or thumbs down. But looking at some people in our sphere who have worked in local government attorneys who may be retired or, and know what, sometimes attorneys see things in other people, like you see in yourself. If you were to sit with a car guy, you would know what questions to ask a car guy, right?
I sit with plenty of attorneys, and I can tell you get 3 of them lined up.
Well, maybe I chose
different
the wrong
answers.
example. If I sit with garden people, I know when garden people are blowing smoke up my skirt because I got a garden, right? So I think it was a very good suggestion. The more I thought about it, the more I thought it was a good idea. And Commissioner Herr, feel free to pitch your own concept.
So I think when you're hiring very specialized, highly skilled individuals like this, and none of us have this training or skill set, that relying upon people who have maybe walked in that role before or even currently in other areas of the state may be helpful. So I viewed it as an opportunity to have experts meet with the finalists, not all of the candidates, I don't know what this says, but the finalists, for us to have a sounding board from. And so I would tell you that I think we do have retired elected officials that are attorneys in town that would be perfectly capable of doing it. I think you could look at other organizations that have service. I think it's awkward for our team to do it if any of them are in the mix or they're going to end up reporting to this person. I don't think that's a fair request to make. So I personally think we would benefit from the opportunity to have them screened through a panel of jurists.
Again, I understand the thought process 100%. I would not have an interest in doing that. It would assume that whatever attorneys we brought in would have a depth of knowledge from a municipal standpoint. I don't know where you're going to find 3 judges that have a depth of municipal experience.
I wasn't asking for judges.
Attorneys, excuse me, that would have a depth of municipal experience. And if they did, to what depth and what background would concern me. And again, I understand the thought process behind that. But I personally, I wouldn't find any value in it, and perhaps you all will, but I would find no value in that.
Mr. Applegate?
And that's not negativity, just my prerogative on that.
Mr. Applegate, you wanted to jump in?
I have no problem with it. I just want to make sure then that, just like the department heads were given the chance to meet with the county manager candidates, that the June 7th, that my office would still get a chance to meet with the finalists. I know, I just want to make sure this isn't taking the place of that.
No. So June 7th, you have the finalist candidates interviewing with the county attorney staff, and the word interview is probably an unfair word because it is, we'll say socialize, interact with the county manager, and then in addition, and that panel of attorneys. So I kind of come from the perspective of, I like lots of input and perspective when I'm making a really important decision, because one of the names that actually came up, which I thought was, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, John Horan. He's been a county commissioner. He's a very well-respected attorney. He knows that what it is to be a county commissioner on the other end of a dais from an attorney, as well as being an attorney. And I thought, wouldn't that be, I would benefit from, after the interviews and during that process, and just hear, John, what do you think? Just like we did with the members of the public, what was the interaction like? How was that? There were a few other names that were mentioned that popped in, and I thought, well, those would also be good people I respect, people who've interacted on both sides, not just being government attorneys, but being attorneys before government and knowing what that is like. Because we have a constituency of people who represent clients before this board, and their perspective is valuable as well. So I saw value in it for me, but I'm certainly not going to, sit here and pound my fist and say we have to do it if there isn't consensus from the board.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is the intent that this panel would come back with a recommendation to this board?
No.
Just be available for questions.
Okay.
Just like we did with the citizen. So this would, instead of having everybody and their brother come to an open house event, this would be an opportunity for us to say to the individuals that met with these potential candidates, so what'd you think? Highs, lows, positives, negatives, and it would not be a public record, it wouldn't be a vote, it wouldn't be a ranking, it would just be for for my benefit, to have someone else have eyes and ears on the situation that has a greater depth of knowledge and background than I do.
Madam Chair, when we hired Mr. Applegate, we didn't use that process, and I thought we did a pretty good job. He's been here, how many years, Brian, you been here?
I'm sorry?
How many years you been here?
You lost me with a pretty good job.
I didn't mean it in a negative. I wasn't trying to be sarcastic, Brian. I think you did.
One of the reasons I want to get past
I think you've done a phenomenal job.
July and August is so I can say I did 12 full years.
You did 12
The only
years.
reason I'm saying is because we didn't use that process, and I felt that it was very beneficial for us to have a natural search, and I believe the search committee, as well as understanding and interviewing them, it worked out rather well.
So for the clarification, this is a search.
I know it is.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Zembauer and Commissioner Hurt.
First and foremost, we've hired a professional search firm with Renee Narlock, who is tasked and has the experience to identify talent that makes application, does the background search to bring us viable candidates. Although someone may find some value in having some attorney, whether it's a retired attorney that, did municipal work or in the private sector, some value in vetting whatever, it assumes that all the candidates that interacted had the same access to those individuals who then you would ask questions about. In my mind, there's so many things that can go wrong, so many opinions that can be opinionated. When it comes right down to it, we're paying for a professional search firm to bring us. It's incumbent upon us to ask those hard questions and identify that. That lies on us to make that decision. And making the process go on with many layers of people giving input to us I think it's just not productive use of time, nor the professional search firm that we're asking to do this search and bring us candidates that are viable.
So I think we have two of us that would find value. Certainly, if the majority would not like to avail themselves of the information, that would be fine, but it looks like we're at a stalemate. So Commissioner Constantine, I'm going to throw this squarely in your lap.
Well,
Yeah, I did call on you. I'm
recognize
so
me.
sorry. I was just trying to wrap us up.
I agree with that approach, though. I do want to just throw in there that we've always done it this way is never a good answer for me. I am a continuous quality improvement person, and I will always be challenging the status quo. So that, we didn't do it before, and we ended up pretty well, is that I can't get there. That's just not how top organizations run. And I definitely understand the concern about the slippery slope of who, I get it. I totally get it. But if we eliminate the downside of that and create the opportunity for us to just be better stewards of understanding the technical skill sets that are presented before us, I think it might be beneficial. And you don't have to avail yourself to them.
No, at the end of the day, if my fellow commissioners find value in that, I mean, invite all the attorneys you'd like. I have no problem with that at all.
Well, I think
Call them up and invite
we were
50.
trying to do 3. I think it was 1 meeting with each of the finalists and the 3 together, if we could get 3 in a room. It's not 32 meetings.
No, understand. I mean, I find no value in it, and I'm, to your point, the slippery slope, I come from a world is make a decision, get it done. Now,
But we're
the old
super
way.
slow to fire.
Oh, I understand.
We don't ever fire anybody, so that's a different thing.
And I appreciate the way it used to be done. And my answer is, why fix something that's not broken? If the process is broken, I'm all about fixing it, but I'm not all about adding layers. But I have no problem with my fellow commissioners want attorneys to be part of the meeting process so they can get, I have no problem with that at all. I would find no benefit to it to me, nor would I advocate that this is an additional layer that we should go down this road, as a policy.
So you wouldn't oppose us including that in the process?
I don't oppose it at all.
Would anybody, let's do it this way. Would anyone oppose this being a part of the process? Not whether you need it, not whether you find it beneficial. I mean, you're all brilliant and can read rooms and minds and body language, and I
might
get
be
it.
pushing that a little bit.
Well, Commissioner Constantine.
Well, I was hoping that we would get a consensus before I had to talk, because, the fact of the matter is that, I have I never have a problem with involving more people in communications. And the fact of the matter is that I'm looking at this schedule, and we have a May 23rd where Renee is going to bring in the top candidates. And then we have nothing until the 7th. And if I can suggest just a hybrid, I don't want to select anybody. I don't want to select specific attorneys. But, there are a lot of attorneys that work with our county attorney, and both city attorneys as well as, former county commissioners, you suggested, and maybe select an afternoon between those two times that those who show interest could come in and talk to those candidates. And then if you've got if you want to select, like, let's say, for example, and I'm just using this, I don't even want to tell you how long ago, but many, many, many years ago, I hired Skip Fowler in Altamont Springs. Skip Fowler is still the attorney of Altamont Springs, and if he wanted to come in and talk, and I know the city of Altamont Springs and the county talk together all the time, and I'm using this as an example. I hope he really doesn't come, but I'm using that as an example. But if he comes and talks to the candidates, I would be interested in what he says. Right. Okay? So select a day, an afternoon. Okay, you're going to tell me this is not going to work.
Well, what I'm going to tell you is they could be, I'm not sure who they all are, and they're going to be in town for 2 days.
Yeah.
So you said somewhere between the 23rd and the 7th. I guess I didn't understand.
Whatever,
So whatever day that they're
okay,
here.
I'm not trying to tell you what the calendar is. I'm just trying to say, if there is a time that we can sit there and say, hey, attorneys, you want to come, that work with the county attorney, you want to come in and you want to talk with them, and then we know who they are, and if we want to give them, ask their suggestion, or if they want to call us and ask the suggestion, fine. That's it.
Well, if we invite...
But I don't want to make this a formal thing where we've got 3 attorneys.
Maybe if we invite Attorney Mike Jones, it'll be a short meeting.
The damn short meeting, yes. But that's what I'm just saying. Don't make this a formal thing. Just an informal, here's the afternoon, if they want to come in, and then we know who they are, and we can, or they can tell us what their opinions are, or we can ask them. Because I will tell you this. The citizens that attended the meeting at SSC would call me up and tell me what they thought.
Well, they did the same for all of us, I think.
I agree. And that's all. If that's the type of thing.
I'm fine with that.
Here in the afternoon, where we're not selecting 3 or 4, but just saying, okay, if you want to come, they're going to be here. Anybody wants to do it there, and then they wanted to give us their suggestions, that's fine.
That's a great,
So I'm in that same
that's a great
category. If you all
compromise.
want to do that, it's fine, but I don't want to make it part of the routine, formal procedure
And I'm not
that we adopt.
All right, anything else? I think there's consensus of some sort to do something that involves feedback from professionals in their field. All right. That, I think that was all I had. I'm so sorry. Commissioner
It was
Herr,
like going to the dentist and getting a tooth pulled.
I know, I won the award for longest report, but we had a lot of really important things that we had to cover, and so I appreciate your enduring, and public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board?
Wait a minute, we missed future agenda items.
Is there one?
Well,
I didn't hear that there was one agended.
We don't have one on this agenda. We do have a request for the next agenda to place a future agenda item.
yes, that's my request.
Okay, so we'll talk about it for the next one. Okay, great. Public
Do you
comment.
want your item on the next agenda, or do you want to tell us about your item on the next
I've
agenda?
asked for 2 items to put on the next agenda, but I do have another item.
Okay, but that's not how that works. So we need to circle
Well, I
back.
can't talk to you outside of this room.
No. The future agenda item thing. I think we all have a varying degrees of understanding of how that's supposed to work, so we maybe need to tighten that up and
Sure. And I can get
figure
that
that out,
out.
because I don't think staff was prepared thinking that there was a future agenda item to be discussed today.
No, but we did place your request for future agenda items on the May 9th agenda.
Okay.
I'll let the chair deal with it. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Move on.
You said
I'll
you
get
had
there.
something else, though, that you wanted to discuss?
No, I'm good.
Can I suggest that that's a good idea, that we ask the county manager to look at that policy, because we all are confused on it.
Yep. Sure.
And if I've got something that comes up and I have to wait until the day before, after, to get it on the next, I think that we're delaying, in good ideas.
All I want, not a future, all I want to do is have discussion about a possible future agenda item, if my fellow commissioners are so willing, but I guess I'll put something on that requests that we have a discussion with my fellow commissioners about a future agenda possible being an item.
And that's why.
If that's what we got to do, that's what I'll do. I mean, we're all elected officials. We should be able to make a discussion anytime we want as the
Yes.
legislators of this
I agree.
county.
Absolutely, but Commissioner Zembauer, this was a process that was put in place before I was chair, and I'm just trying to navigate the process that I inherited, and if it's something that the board wants to revisit and do differently, we can certainly scrap it and change our operating policies and procedures and eliminate it, but I agree that the county manager can work with that.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll handle it.
So my question is, to that point, when do you all want me to have a discussion with you whether you want to have an idea that I have to consider as a future agenda item? If you don't, then I don't need to request a future agenda item.
I think there's just confusion.
Right.
So I think we get an email, I don't remember how long before the meeting comes out, but we get,
It's a good 2 weeks before.
Right, 2 weeks.
and so So we respond with, here's a future agenda item that I'd like added to this agenda. So that request was apparently ended up on a future agenda, but it's at the next meeting because of the timing of when it was requested. So probably the gap in the process is that what happens when something pops up between the 2 weeks that it comes out and the meeting.
Right.
That's the gap.
And because of the sunshine, many times people want to make sure that they have something and then the information the staff wants. And I recall 3 or 4 years ago when some were complaining that, well, you know, we want to have it something at least 2 weeks in advance. So now we're getting it the day before this meeting that we have to have it in for the next meeting, and that's all I'm saying. Let's just let the county
Let me look at this as a
figure it
process,
out
and then I
bring it
can
back.
get with you.
That would be fabulous.
Chairman, and
Yep.
we can then
Because I
put
want
out a new
everybody to
process.
be able to say whatever they need, when they need
Right.
it. But if there's backup that needs to be happened, I get that too.
I think what was happening is there were votes that were being asked for on the dais on the fly, and we were not prepared for being asked at that moment to vote for something. And if we're going to socialize an idea, that's great. But if you have an intent to bring something up for a vote before this board, then it is it's congenial to let us know ahead of time and let staff know ahead of time that you're intending to bring something up for a vote that you would like to be considered. I think that's where the difference is. So
But the request is to socialize, to be clear.
Exactly.
So he's asking to
So that's
socialize.
my point. I mean, I don't want to waste staff's time or our time making a request that I want to discuss with my fellow commissioners.
You can
They
talk-
have an interest in this being a future
You can talk about
agenda.
whatever you want. I think I've made it very clear that what I saw happening, and the reason why this was put in by somebody other than me, again, I inherited this as the chairman, is that we were being asked on the fly to vote for something, having just seen it at that moment, and that was perceived as being an unfair situation to put your colleagues in, to ask for a vote on the fly on the dais for something that might take a little bit more time. My impression was it was a way to have a little more of a congenial operation. But again, for the 50th time, and I'm so sorry, beating a dead horse, county manager's going to bring it back. Is there anything else to come before the board? All right, we're adjourned at 3:30. There was no public comment, correct?